there. I am Anne LaFollette, and welcome to this week's broadcast. In this week's broadcast, we are going to sketch together. In my coaching practice and also in my online course that's called the Surface Pattern Design Academy, I often hear from students that they think that they can't draw. And I beg to differ. I truly believe that we all can draw, but we have these voices in the back of our head that tell us that we're not going to be very good at it. And that may be true unless you practice. So let's practice together and do this pretty floral sketch. And I will also show you how to use tracing paper in case there are sections of your drawing that you want to change. Let me give you a quick rundown of the supplies that I'm using. I'm sketching in a Canson 7x10" sketching pad, and it is mixed media paper, which I love because I can both sketch in it in pen or in pencil. I can also do my watercolor work in it and gouache or acrylic. Links to all of the supplies are in the description down below this video. I'm using a set of Molotow fine liners. I love them. They're black liners and they come in a set of 11, so you get a variety of nib sizes. In this particular exercise, I'm just using 2. I'm using the 0.3 right now, which is a pretty skinny nib size, and then you'll see me later trace over the stems of my sprigs and my flowers, and I am using the 0.5 when I do that. The last supply that I use a little bit later in the video is some tracing paper that I got at Blick's Art Supply store. You will also find a link to a downloadable cheat sheet where I break down each one of these little flowers and sprigs step by step and line by line. I'd love for you to download that and then rewatch the video and follow along step by step. And then please post your work either on Facebook or if you've posted on Instagram, use the hashtag Flowers with Anne, and Anne has an E at the end, so that would be Flowers with Anne, and Anne is spelled A-N-N-E. I would love to see your version of this cute little floral. I've been sketching for a little bit now, so let me give you some pointers on what you've seen so far. I always like to start out with what in my own mind is the simpler of the 2 sprigs, and then I'll add my flowers afterwards like I'm doing right now. The sprigs are super easy. You just make one sort of long wavy line and then add ovals here and there and a little bit everywhere along the stem. And then to add a little bit more interest and also to be able to have a little bit more areas where you have some dark for contrast, I add those really small little dots that are basically just at the end of a very small line. Very simple shapes to make, and you can put them every which way and create something that's really pleasing to the eye. I will go back in after I have done my overall sketch, and as you can see me doing now, I've switched over to a thicker nib size to the 0.5, and I'm adding in some additional detail in order to be able to create that contrast I was just talking about. So at the base of the flowers, the little blossoms, I filled in sort of that very small kind of cup shape that's at the base of them. I'm tracing over my actual sort of the long line that I created, and that also adds a little bit of contrast between some lines being thinner and some lines being thicker. And then what I'm doing right now with the smallest nib size, which again is the 0.3 in this Molotow set, is I'm adding some shading, just starting from the base of each one of those oval shapes and then working outwards from there. I don't add shading to every leaf because I do want some of them to be more open with maybe just one line, whereas others may have several. Now let me show you how I go about using tracing paper as a way for me to make some subtle adjustments in my design when I see an area that I wish I had done slightly differently. So let me show you how I did that next. I put the tracing paper over my sketch and I use a little bit of washi tape to attach it to my sketchbook so that it won't move. And then essentially I trace over my artwork, and when I see something that I want to redo, so for example, this particular little pansy, I think it came out a little bit funky on my first try. So I am redoing it using the tracing paper, which I just find really helpful as a way to make these sort of subtle adjustments. I'm also going to make this particular flower a little bit larger, and you can see here that I decided to just make it a little bit bigger. The other thing that you'll notice is I'm using the thicker nibbed pen, and I'm doing that in part because I just think it's easier for you to actually see what I'm doing, but also just so that you can see the subtle difference in the overall effect of this particular sketch when you use a slightly fatter nib size. I'm using the 0.5, and I'm going to go back to using the 0.3 when I want to add some of the interior shading that I will get to in just a minute. As you continue to watch me tracing over my original design, one of the advantages of using a slightly bigger nib size is also that for the little dots that you see me doing right now, I can fill them in more quickly when I have a thicker nib size. One of the things that I have found over the years is also it's just fun to have a variety of nibs near you because you can switch back and forth as you're going through your drawing, and that can be a little bit more efficient as if you are, for example, only have a certain amount of time to devote to your sketching and to your drawing. What's great about the tracing paper is, as I mentioned before, you can just make small adjustments in terms of either placement or the actual size of a particular portion of your drawing. For me, this particular example, what I did not like in my original is I didn't really like the way my two little pansies that are in the center of this piece came out. I thought that they were a little bit too funky and not quite round enough, and as a result, when I used the tracing paper, I could make those adjustments. I might do several versions using the tracing paper, which is great practice. Again, it helps you with that voice inside your head telling you that it's never going to be perfect, and it won't, of course, ever be perfect, but the more practice that you get and the more you play around with different nib sizes and you play around with where you want to add additional shading like I'm doing right now, or where you actually want the sketch to kind of stand by itself and be just an outline, you can do a variety of different versions, which is really great practice and helps you understand how to use your tools better, and at the end of the day then gives you a whole bunch of different examples that you can look at and try to pick the one that you like best. As we wrap up this week's broadcast, let me show you a little video of my kitchen table because you know I don't have a studio, I'm just a kitchen table artist. Here's my original sketch, and then here are the two versions that I did using the tracing paper. And if you enjoyed this broadcast and would like more sketching tutorials, please click the subscribe button, and don't forget to also hit the little bell so that you're notified as soon as a new video is available. I always like to say in closing that I am Anne LaFollette, and it's never too late to create. Bye for now, and I'll see you again next week.